Good evening again, all you YouTubers. Welcome back to the basement. So I had a pretty good amount of people that were interested in my last 60 clone video, so I thought I'd do part 2 of the saga and show off a few other things that I added on to and hopefully improved upon, and so far nothing's blown up, so that's a good thing. So we'll kick it over to the other view and I can show you around. So first, I cleaned up the coax over here, made it all little cleaner looking, shortened the runs, got them tied right off the bottom of the relays. So hopefully the video stuff will work a little better that way. I think it's as clean as you're ever going to get it. I mean, it is 1980s technology. It's not going to be as crisp as HDMI or any of the other newfangled standards. So that's really it for the video side of the house. At least it looks cleaner with the wires coming out from under the board, even if it doesn't improve video quality. So on to the cool stuff. Here we'll get this thing centered a little better. Zoom in a little bit. Alright, that ought to be good enough. Alright. So if you remember from last time, there were only 2 socketed ROMs, and now there's 3. So we'll get to the character ROM in a minute. I was able to grab Adrian's code, get a little what is this, the Nano Pro, I think, Pro Nano, whatever they call it, the itty bitty little Arduino in there to do the switching, and I was able to add a couple extra lines of code to also switch the basic ROM when I went to ROM number 3 on the kernel ROM, because the Open ROM's kernel has to have the Open ROM's basic to go with it. So that's all working good now. I won't waste too much time on that. If you look at Adrian's video on how to fire up your Arduino to do kernel switching and all that, he covers it a lot better than I can. So I'll post the code I did with the changes on Pastebin or something and link it in the bottom of the video so that way you guys can see it. But it was really simple stuff. It's not rocket surgery at all. So as far as powering the Arduino, I took the 5 volts right out of the video section here. There's a cap there that I just tacked the wire right onto, and that's coming off the regulated section of the board. So it's a good, clean 5 volts coming right into him. I pulled the ground right off the ground plane right next to it, just because the wire was that length already. No particular reason there. You could ground it anywhere on the board. Now this is where things got a little different compared to Adrian's video. He was doing this on an original Commodore board where all the vias on those boards were either open or just had solder on them. On the 60 clone, there's a ton of solder mask on all these, and on the back side of the board, I started to scrape away at one of them, the one over here for the reset pin, and I just wasn't comfortable doing it that way. I figured I was going to slip with the razor knife or do something terrible to the board. So instead, one thing I did notice on these 60 clone boards, all of the through-hole components, the holes are quite oversized. So I was able to just lift the leg on this cap here. The reset line comes to this cap, then it goes through the cap and off to the rest of the circuit for, going to the processor and whatnot. But I was able to just pull the leg on this cap and drop an angled header in there with it. So I'll show you on one of the other ones. This one's kind of a pain to get on and off because of this ROM adapter here. But at any rate, I didn't have to scrape solder mask or make new holes or anything else. I was able to just drop the header right in there for the reset line. Down here, thereabouts, I was able to do the same thing for the restore key. And this one's easier to get off, so it was pretty easy just to lift one leg on C38, I think he is, little cap C38, and get that leg back through the board along with the pin header. So it's in there, it's solid, it ain't going anywhere. I could probably pick up the motherboard by that pin header if I wanted to. The XROM line that you need to do the cold reset, that one wasn't as easy. He comes right out of here. He takes this little dogleg trace up to that via right there. And there again, I don't want to scrape away at the mask and risk hurting the board or anything, but that just comes back to pin 23 on the PLA. So I just tacked the wire right onto the pin on the chip itself. And that'll clean up easy enough if I ever want to pull the wire off. I'm not concerned I hurt the chip or anything. The computer still runs fine. So we have our power, we have our XROM line, we have the reset line and the restore key line all wired in, all with headers. I could easily unplug it and pull the stuff out if I needed to. No reason to. If you wanted to pull the board out of the machine for service, all that stuff can stay right there. And I just stuck him down right to the board with some of this Scotch, what do they call this stuff? Extreme mounting tape. I figured if it said extreme on it, it'll be good stuff. But I've used this on all kinds of stuff, indoors and outdoors, and holding parts on my car that held up at the drag race track and everything else. So it's pretty tough stuff. I'm not afraid of him going anywhere. It's pretty thick, so I'm not afraid of the pin headers poking into the board. I just made sure it was wrapped real well on the bottom of there, stuck it right down, and he's not budging. He's not going anywhere. So that's the basics of getting the lines from the board wired into the Arduino. Just hook it up to the address headers, and then you can hit the restore key, hold it down for a couple of seconds, and it will cycle through 4 different ROMs. I wound up going with the patch Jaffe DOS ROM in the first slot, the stock Commodore ROM in the second slot. The third slot has the Open ROMs, basic and kernel combination, and in the fourth slot was the Exos version 4 modded by Joe. I don't know who Joe is, but I needed a 4th ROM, so I figured I'd toss it in there. So the kernel switching's running great, everything's running good with all that stuff. Now here's really the point of the video. The only thing that's really new, aside from the Arduino auto switching, if you want to call it that, or switchless switching, is the Character ROM. So the Character ROM is addressed just like the other ROMs on the board, and you can go through and try out different character generators if you want a little bit different look for the machine. So let's kick over to, let's see, the S-video feed. So there's your stock Commodore ROM with both address lines shorted. It's just the good old-fashioned Commodore 64 ROM. If you pull off one of these, and you can do this while the machine's on, nothing seems to blow up. You're just changing the character generator address, really. This is one of the Open ROMs fonts that came out of their project that was available on their GitHub. So I thought that was a pretty cool looking one on there. If you pull them both off, you get the other Open ROMs character generator, and then the one in the middle, if you short that, you get the single pixel, the skinny font, some people call it, out of the VIC-20. So all these font sets work. They all have upper, lower, Petski, all that other jazz running in there. So it's kind of neat. Now I have 4 different fonts I can choose from. I think it was this one. Yeah, that's the one I thought was kind of neat. So that's the one I'm probably going to leave it on. I'm not going to bother with a switch for all that. I don't plan on changing ROMs all that often, but I thought it was pretty cool to have 4 different character ROMs you can switch on the fly if you want to. So that's really that. Just thought I'd do a little follow-up. Showed you I actually finished something I started, and the little 60 clone is running really well. Maybe I'll even post up the ROM file for the character generator. It's they're all open source or public domain at this point. I don't know that anybody's holding any copyright infringement cases for using the stock Commodore ROM. You can get them anywhere. You can rip them out of your own ROM and reprogram it in anyway. So I think I'm pretty safe to post that ROM file up there if you guys want to download it, slap it on a chip with one of these adapters and get it going. But yep, that's the 60 clone. He's doing well. I'll probably wind up replacing him with one of those GAL PLAs, because it's easier to rig up one of those boards with an extra pin header for the XROM line, and then it won't be hardwired in like that. So I got some of those GAL 20 V8 chips on order. So when those come in, I'll slap them on a board, throw it in there, and I think we'll be done for now. Unless anybody has any other brilliant ideas for mods I can do to this thing, I'm more than happy to take jumper wires, a soldering iron, extra chips, and whatever, and we'll experiment on this board. And that's that. So thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning back in for the follow-up if you did. Take care, everybody.